I'll second it.
Ron Ellis.
Yay.
Brent Gentry.
Yay.
Jim Marlowe.
Yay.
I'll make a motion that we accept resolution number 20051523 for the Community Development Block Grant for Albright Lawn Care.
Second it.
Ron Ellis.
Yay.
Brent Gentry.
Yay.
Jim Marlowe.
Yay.
Make a motion that we accept resolution number 20051524 for the Community Development Block Grant for Family Foot and Ankle Center of Southern Illinois.
Second it.
Ron Ellis.
Yay.
Brent Gentry.
Yay.
Jim Marlowe.
Yay.
Make a motion that we accept resolution number 20051525, the Community Development Block Grant for DeFleur Inc.
Delafleur.
Delafleur
It's a
Inc.
retail furniture store.
over in Carterville, or Energy, or Springville, right in there.
Yes, sir.
I'll second. Okay.
Ron Ellis.
Yay.
Brent Gentry.
Yay.
Jim Marlowe.
Yay.
Make a motion that we accept resolution number 20051526 for the Community Development Block Grant for Sully's.
I'll second it.
Ron Ellis.
Yay.
Brent Gentry.
Yay.
Jim Marlowe.
Yay.
That's all of those.
It's all ready.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Then the next one is the elected official salary.
We talked about that on Tuesday, and now we passed it with the resolution. I didn't know if we needed to do it with the resolution number officially on there.
Yeah, you got that resolution number on there.
Yeah.
It gives vote on contingent upon the resolution, so.
So we've already voted on it. Now we got the resolution number on there, so we don't really need to vote on it.
It's not a voting item, so just, it's not our head.
Just make
Look at
it,
there, here comes another masked man.
so we just make it
Father Jeffrey.
that the resolution number officially was 20051527 for the elected county officials' salaries,
Okay.
just as a
So
note.
as a note to make it official. Okay.
Father.
All right. The others are the emergency management, or the contract appointments to a couple different offices. One is for the emergency management agency director, and one is for the economic development director. Anybody got anything they want to say about this?
Well, Ron, when you get there, you notice I added a paragraph 3. This is, because this is not really a contract. Rhett thought, he called me tonight about an issue by county, and he said they give the authorization to legal counsel to prepare some kind of contract. But this is really just a resolution.
So then what we need to do then is table this until we get further direction in talk to you about it, and everything as far as the contract.
He said he's got a template if you need it, or something, just a little old, paragraph, or paragraph like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Other than that, let's see.
Did you want to ask Brandon about what?
Yeah,
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and do that now? Brandon, there's a possibility I've been working with Brian Ziegler and trying to come up with something that would take care of the White Ash sewer system, that bring it up to speed so that we could offer a possible deal with either Johnson City or Pittsburgh for them to take it over. Celeste was informing me that there's this Rebuild Illinois grant that is good for up to possibly $5 million. Brian Ziegler had made mention of it. Brian said that we would be considered the owners of it, and that's the way EPA looks at it. Our fear all along has been that if we're considered the owners, that the state's going to come back and require us to do audit finding reports and stuff, which could be quite expensive, and we never really wanted to do that. We actually turned them down on that because we don't own it technically.
we're overseeing.
Okay,
But the
if,
application can be made by the county on behalf of a local community, or we can call it an unincorporated community.
We applied for the grant, but we're not.
Right, we'll apply on behalf of.
now, if technically, from what I understand, they're not totally dissolved because the bond is still associated with them.
Correct.
So they're still considered.
They're
They're considered a
according to
township.
USDA, they're still
So we
considered,
can apply on behalf of the village
Of-
of White Ash Sewer System.
right.
Would that clarify that we're not owners?
Yeah, do you have that grant application or just the language that should be?
On that very next page, the bottom half of information on the bottom.
Because Celeste, that's exactly right. They can't officially dissolve until after the USDA loan is totally repaid. So they're still,
They're technically, they're still incorporated village.
correct, they just don't have a president, they don't have any trustees for the township, but they're still officially a township.
Yep.
But in order
But-
for us to even get rid of this, it has to have the improvements done.
Correct. Nobody's going to want to take it because you're talking many thousands of dollars to get it up to speed for today's qualifications for it.
We've done all we can do. I mean, we're using their money, and
There will be no money involved because this is 100%
Right.
funded.
But if
So
they're
you
still
can have that
considered,
payment if you wanted.
if they're still considered a village, how do we get their motor fuel tax?
We get it
Yeah, how do we get it?
because they have no way to do anything. We
Yeah.
get them, we get the
Because they have
money,
no road
we get the
equipment.
money for the citizens who live there. We get the money for the motor fuel tax. We get the money for the sales tax because they do not have an existing anything.
So I just want to make sure that we're not going to be on the hook for the state for anything on this.
I just reviewed it, just made a little note of that Phil reviewed.
So
Too, but,
we've got till, what'd you say, the end of June?
June 30th, the applications are due.
It has
Yeah.
to, and when it says due, that means it has to be there.
Yeah,
Be there
so
on June 30th.
July 1 is too late.
Yes.
I mean, I guess the question.
if
So we
could
need
get
to have
that,
it set off.
That would be good, if we could get that.
Yeah, it wouldn't cost us anything if it could be funded.
Yeah.
Repairs could be made and then you
That'd
could
be the only thing
see
I'd
if
want to
your
look
job
at
is
exactly
over
with
next
that.
But
And so
realistically,
we would get the money then on
Do the
behalf
repairs,
to do the repairs.
yes.
but we need to have that sent off from here by the 25th of June to make sure that we have the leeway to get it up there.
Yeah,
We'll look about that clawback provision too. I mean, it looks like it's okay. I'd just be curious as to what all that entails.
all right,
Is that it?
that's it.
Okay. You were here next?
Well,
Take a number.
I'm not on the old business, you know, there's not a line item for it, so I'm assuming that we're gonna have to have another meeting for this resolution. It's been prepared, but
The mobile home.
yeah, but it's not listed in the agenda.
It wasn't tabled, was
I
it?
wasn't at that.
It was tabled.
We
We
tabled
tabled it.
Yeah.
Can we not do it on here? We'd have to have it on. I mean, just because it was tabled, we can't go back to it and
It has to be listed.
What do you think?
Does it
revisit.
have to be listed if they vote on
Historically.
Okay, all
it's
right.
supposed to be,
So
it's
then
supposed to be
we'll
listed
put it on the
there, but
next one then.
It would be,
Well, I
it
mean-
depends which way he turns his head, it's whether we can do it or not.
One more time.
Father,
Yeah, get our blessings.
I
Okay,
also am gonna need you to have a meeting next week for the appropriations
correct,
transfers.
Correct.
I'm gonna work on that.
because this is a pay
The
Friday. Payroll today,
was-
okay.
was today.
it?
Okay.
And CMS needs to be put back on there to vote on that.
Correct.
Just make sure to put that on. We'll make sure to
Yeah.
put that on there.
Okay, all right.
But I think, Phil, you sent everybody a copy of this mobile home resolution, didn't you?
I sent it to Stephanie.
Stephanie, did you print it out?
No, I haven't got it.
No, okay. I'll give you guys a copy.
I tried.
That's why I didn't have it on there, because I didn't know I'd be ready for
Okay.
this meeting.
I sent it to you after this agenda has been posted anyway.
Go back and look.
So basically what I did, I think, look, after going over it with Philip and Brandon, I had originally put 60 days, but to me, that was too confusing, so we identified specific dates.
Okay.
As to when the penalties would go into force.
All right. Are you done?
That's it.
Okay. Jeff?
A question came up about the water main, or the water line that comes into the shooting range. The sheriff called me. We really should have thought about putting an easement over the property that Tim Barnett purchased, because that's where the water main comes down to get down the shooting range. So we need to do some.
Was that something we had to talk to Tim? He's gonna agree to it. Is that something you guys just talk to
Well,
Tim?
we just need to talk to him and make sure that he'll allow us a utility easement, for the existing water main.
Okay.
He'd be fine.
I don't think it'll be a big deal, but it's something that we should probably cover ourselves with. I've gone to get me all about to check into it. We try to get a copy of the title policy. I don't know what restrictions and covenants are on there already. I doubt if we did that, but of course, we own the property at the time, so we wouldn't have, you can't give yourself an easement to something you already have the rights to, so. I do not believe there's gonna be any easement for utility, so we just need to come up with something with the language of with the existing water line and only for maintenance. That way, that would clear it. I was trying to put in other, basically just for maintenance upon the existing.
Benny called me yesterday and was asking about this, and then I called Jeff. And it had nobody ever thought about it, because the water line's already there, and that was his concern, is if there's a problem down the road, because the water line is actually owned by Pittsburgh to the meter, and then from the meter to us, but the meter's on the remaining property that we have, because it's right there at the facility, so it's.
I think it just talk to Tim.
It comes off Glacier Falls
Can be
Road.
Okay.
Is where the water line comes down and heads straight south. I don't know if it heads straight south, but we did own the property, now we no longer own.
What we have to do is just get
So
some,
we just
they
need,
fine.
we'll have to come up with the language for easement, utility easement for
Okay.
maintenance. And what we do is just a water line, and just, we'll need him to sign off on that, so we have that ability to do that. So,
All right.
Another cleanup on the property that we got rid of, because we still have to come up with the easement.
Let's take a good look, make sure there's nothing else that we,
We're trying to
Left
get-
behind.
We're trying to get that.
Yeah.
Cleaned up on the last day. I talked to the state's attorney about that deal, and also about the mineral rights. We
Yeah.
are going to go ahead and get to.
Yeah. we've got the money for the property now, and give it to you, so. All right, we need to go ahead and move on and get on to this post-community agreement and intergovernmental agreement. This time I'm gonna bring Kim Meyer on. She wanted to join us. Let's see here. So,
Hello.
Kim?
Hello. Yes.
All right, we're here at the meeting. We have the full board here. Philip's here, Brandon's here. So what we have here in front of us is the host community agreement and the intergovernmental agreement. Kim, Greg, and myself have been in contact with Daniel Corbett from ICRMT. And Daniel has been working with him, has come up with, he's guided us along the way here on these documents. He's made some suggestions, and we've gone with his suggestions. And these documents that we have here are the ones that he recommends that we send forward. And I know Philip had given us some suggestions and comments before. We incorporated those. We talked about those and with Daniel. So Kim, do you want to lead off this parade here?
Okay. Well, I think if we start, with the intergovernmental agreement, that's a component of the host community agreement.
Mhm.
And so basically, the process here was to send those documents over to Daniel, and we found out in working with Daniel that he has a lot of experience in litigating the disagreements that come from development agreements like this. And so he comes at it with the expertise that, quite frankly, I know I don't have it. Jim, I'm confident saying I don't think you have it, and Greg was confident saying he doesn't have the litigation experience. But in his experience, to add certain clauses and languages, and he added a lot of things regarding insurance during the construction period and things like that. If he's seen these agreements go wrong and end up in litigation in the past. And so he added a lot of interesting perspectives from either lawsuits. He didn't say whether he won or lost, it doesn't matter. But the words that really would make a difference during litigation. And so I think the biggest change on the intergovernmental agreement, he made a couple of comments that in the intergovernmental agreement, there's one that's floating out there right now with Jackson County that they are not interested in signing, is my understanding. There was language in there that assessed the cost to Baxter Construction, some cost to Baxter Construction. And Daniel's comment was, unless Baxter Construction signs this intergovernmental agreement, that's not enforceable in any way. And so he proposed some language changes to take that out. I think the other thing too that Greg was able to get from Mitch, the Jackson County highway director, whatever the proper term is there, they had some specific things that they were looking for if they were going to sign this agreement. And so getting that in written form was a challenge, but Greg was able to get that from Mitch. And two of the main things that he wants are, he wanted a $250,000 reserve for Jackson County in the event their roads are damaged during construction and for a period after construction. They also wanted a 2-year warranty for the road itself. And we talked about that with Daniel, and we talked about that with Greg. And the main question, I think, for everybody is including a $250,000 reserve in this budget for them a deal breaker? That's going to be up to you guys if that's the deal breaker. Greg gave his thoughts on whether he thought it was a deal breaker. His thoughts were, of a whole, if you look at it as a whole $60 million project, his initial thought was no, it's not a deal breaker. However, Greg and I talked, and it doesn't matter if we think it's a deal breaker. It really matters to the people who are signing the document. So the revised document does include that provision. We talked about the warranty on the road, and I asked Daniel, I did not see a way where Williamson County could provide a warranty on anything. You're not constructing it, you're not building it. I don't know how you could warranty anything. So the language that was added to the intergovernmental agreement is that you would agree to list them as a co-beneficiary on any warranty that the contractor provides. I don't know if there is going to be a warranty from the contractor, which in this case would be Baxter Construction. Greg did not feel it would be problematic to add them as a co-beneficiary, so that if there is something that needs warranty work, they could receive it. So I think those were the main changes to the intergovernmental agreement. It incorporated a portion of what Mitch wanted with the reserve. However, I don't think that you can be the provider of any warranty for anything. It's the equivalent of me providing a warranty. It doesn't mean anything. I didn't construct it. So those are the changes. If you read through the intergovernmental agreement, bullet points 5 and 6, those are the ones that have been revised. I think more than once in trying to find a good fit for both counties. At least that's the language that's being proposed for you all to look at and see if you're in agreement that these are not deal breakers. If they are deal breakers, they are. And we certainly don't have to send the documents. But Daniel was looking at this from what are you willing to offer and how can we best protect you? So on the host community agreement.
Kim, if I can interrupt just 1 second, just
Sure.
to bring you and everybody else up to speed. I did get a phone call from Tom Couch. I didn't get to talk to him though. I told him I'd call him back, but he did send me a note. He said he's come across a couple of ideas concerning that $250,000 damage repair fund. Of course.
Who had sent you an email?
Tom Couch, not an email. He sent me a note. He tried to call me. I was talking with someone at the time. I told him I'd call him back. And he just sent me a text back that said he's come up with a couple of ideas that might be applicable. However, I haven't talked to him about it yet. So concerning that $250,000. Remember, I said that is there some sort of insurance that maybe we could get that would cover anything like that instead of having to actually come up with the money, that much money at first, take out some sort of rider or something that would be a sunset for however long, the 6 month. But if needed, it's there. We could call on it, but we don't physically have to come up with it at that time. So he said he's got a couple ideas. I have not been in touch with him, but I just wanted to share that there are a couple ideas on that. So, but I can't present it at the time.
Is that what you're talking about in number 7 there?
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest with you, I have a problem with us agreeing that we'll provide up to $250,000 of funding for this Reed Station Road when it's 100% in Jackson County, and it's not going to be built until after the initial phase of the casino is going to be built, because for that portion of Reed Station Road isn't going to even be around when that construction of the casino is being done.
I understand. I think, Kim, correct me if I'm wrong, does that also include like the secondary roads that they were considering using this for?
My understanding is yes, that reserve would be used
For the secondary, like Vaughn Road?
Oh, yeah. One interesting question that I asked Greg during this whole process was if the 2 highway engineers were reversed, would you be asking what Mitch is asking for?
If the casino was being built in Jackson County.
Yeah, and they were cutting through Williamson County to get to it. Would you be asking for this $250,000 reserve for repairs? And Greg said yes, he would.
But just because you ask for it doesn't mean you get it.
I didn't say that.
Yeah.
These are what Jackson County has asked for, so as to start to get a conversation going. I think all that can be done is point out what the requests are, and let you all decide what are deal breakers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the starting point.
Yes. Okay. Moving on to the host community agreement.
The host community agreement, which the intergovernmental agreement is an attachment to, I think what Daniel really looked at was most of the changes that Daniel incorporated were in the development agreement, which I believe is Exhibit B. In the body of the host community agreement, before Exhibit B, Daniel did add some references to the intergovernmental agreement, just so that people could refer back to that. I think he added that in section 3.7B. I think in the development agreement exhibit B, under item 3A3, there were some references to designing and maintaining roads in compliance with the county's standards. We talked with him about that and revised that to IDOT standards. We felt that Jackson County and Langston County would be better rather than having two different county standards, have it just be IDOT standards. Daniel also added bullet point number 4 there under that section, that the county would timely notify the developer of any deficiencies, just to give the county a time period there to say, hey, these aren't submitted to standards according to what Greg is thinking. He expanded and added to under 3D. He added some detail there that the developer will provide costs for the repairs to the existing road by county. In the event you want to incorporate the $250,000 reserve, you would have a way to start subtracting from that reserve that the contractor has to break out costs for the existing road. And he also added a time period in there. It wasn't specific. It was a reasonable time period for the county to do a full accounting review of all of these costs before you submit payment. So Greg liked that idea. He thought that was a good idea to give the county time to review and reconcile those costs before paying them.
Mm-hmm.
Under section 3B, there was a sentence that discussed assigning warranties from the developer, and that's good. But then the next sentence says that county will accept the road as is and with all faults. And so those two sentences in the same paragraph seem to be rather contradictory of each other. And so for now, he removed that second sentence that says you'll accept it as is with all faults. Knowing they may come back with wanting to talk about that, but he felt the two sentences were contradictory in nature. And under the use of existing roads, there were some changes there that where we're talking about Greg having the right at any point during this project to hire a third-party engineering firm. And one of Greg's main concerns all along is becoming a Walker's Bluff engineer rather than a Williamson County engineer.
Yeah.
And so this provision would give him the latitude to hire a qualified person if in fact there does need to be a Walker's Bluff engineer out there, and giving some information there about what services would be expected, and that the project cost, this would be included in the project cost. So I think if the project gets to the point of being able to develop a budget, then what Greg is saying here is this has to be considered a component of the cost. He has to have the right to hire someone to help manage the workload if it becomes unmanageable. It may not become unmanageable. But this was to address this concern of being the Walker's Bluff engineer.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other important clause that was added to the host community agreement is this is, all this language we're putting out there is great. However, if the developer and the county cannot mutually agree on a budget for the cumulative cost of the road project, the agreement terminates. So that is, this is all necessary paperwork for the application of the license. The host community agreement is a required component of it. But if it gets to a point and they have the license and you still can't work through a budget that you feel like you can live with, you have the right to terminate.
Yeah. Is there a timeline on that agreement? And in reaching the budget?
There's no timeline stated.
Okay. Okay.
So those were the changes and the suggestions. I think the other suggestion that Daniel had was he added a section in there regarding insurance. And he had some good suggestions about insurance requirements during the project.
Mm-hmm.
And so, at the end, I think what you were looking for is some suggestions of how to best protect the county in this, and also how to facilitate allowing them to apply for the license without really putting yourself out there committing to doing this until you can live with the budget. So I think the question is, after you review this, are you at a point where you're comfortable sending this not off with a signature, but the developer and the developer's attorney who works with the gaming board will have to review all of these documents as well, because they have to sign the development agreement with you. So in talking with Emily, the top is running short on having the ability to have them apply for the license. If you just don't want to do it, then I think you're probably at the point of telling them, we don't want to do this. But they're going to have time to review the changes to the host community agreement, so that they can submit their questions to you, and you all can, continue to reconcile and work on the language in order to submit this by the timeline. Brent, you and I talked about it, and submitting the application and even being awarded the license doesn't really mean a lot right now.
It doesn't mean we're locked into anything.
No, it doesn't, because if you still can't agree on the overall budget, there's a clause in there that says you can terminate all of this.
There may be a couple of issues that get in the way. I mean, the timeline with the gaming board, might expire.
Well, I think that's the question, is there just so much uncertainty right now with everything going on that you don't necessarily want to deal with any of this?
Well, I think that might play out with the people putting it in too. They've been shut down going on 3 months, and they're losing millions and millions and millions of dollars.
And the governor, quite frankly, has said that he doesn't see, in one of his press conferences earlier this week, he didn't see the casinos maybe coming back until, at the earliest, as a couple of days ago, maybe August.
Regardless, I think that that's a decision that the casino people will have to make. It's not our decision. I personally think that they have taken a lot of this into consideration, and I'm sure they didn't take the COVID-19 issue into consideration, but I would almost guarantee casinos are coming back. At what point, don't know, but they will be back. I've always viewed this as we've all discussed the opportunity at some point in time where we've all wished that we've had a money tree grow in our yard so that we can handle the expenses of our day-to-day business. I personally view this as a money tree for our county. And I know there are expenses and there are hurdles that we have to jump through and go over and accomplish, and we will do that. But when you look at the long term, and it may not be within 5 years, it may be 10 years, and you look at the revenues that they generate with the Rhythm City casinos, if we're anywhere close to that, I think that's going to be a big boom for Williamson County. It's an opportunity. We just have some hurdles to get through. I understand everybody's concerned about that 250,000, but when you're looking, and I'm just basing it off of Rhythm City, and like I said, I'm not saying we're going to be getting their revenues, but they're getting approximately $3 million a year just in gaming alone, not to mention the tipping fees. Tipping fees, I think we've estimated approximately $500,000 every year. What's 250,000 in relationship to what we could receive as we go forward with this? And that's why the way I look at this, I say that these are some hurdles, and I understand I'm only 1/3 of this board. Everybody has a say so on it. I'd like to pursue this personally after working with Daniel Corbett. I believe this document is good. I know it's maybe not the perfect document, but I think it's good enough to send on.
Jim,
Actually,
could I add a couple of comments on the 250,000?
yeah,
Yeah, because I've been something.
Okay. Well, there were a couple of provisions that we talked about along the way, and in order to not make it feel as if it's an open-ended checkbook, Mitch's comment was he would like availability of the 250 during and after construction. And what I asked about was a sunset on that. How long after acceptance of that road are you going to be getting phone calls for wanting this and this and this fixed? And so then in talking with Greg, he felt that any issues that we're going to develop will develop within 6 months after the road is completed and accepted. So there was a sunset clause put in there that, expenses after, but, it ends at 6 months after acceptance of the road. The other thing we talked about was that both highway engineers would have to approve the use of the damage fund to ensure that it wasn't just Jackson County saying, hey, this is wrong. The Williamson County engineer would have to agree that, yeah, that's an eligible expense for that problem.
mm-hmm.
And I continue to go back to asking Greg to sit in the opposite chairs. Would you be asking for all of these things as well? And his answer continued to be yes. I would be looking for these same things. So you guys will have to decide what's fair and what you want to do with it. I think Daniel has put his thoughts into the document. At some point, we either need to send the documents off for their legal review, or I think we're going to run out of time.
I agree. Ashley, you said you had something?
Yeah, another option you might want to consider for the 250,000 would be a letter of credit. A lot of times with a vendor, the furniture dealers work with us a lot, as well as a lot of the.
Can you hear him, Kim?
Can you hear me,
Not very
Kim?
well. I'm sorry, not very well.
I was saying, looking at a letter of credit as another option instead of the $250,000 on deposit, because normally letters of credit are written for a year at a time. A lot of times a union or like a furniture manufacturer will request that a furniture store or will carry a $250,000 or $25,000 or $50,000 letter of credit, in which they can call it if you fail to make the payments. But on the individual side or the borrower side, you're paying maybe 1% at the most
We got you.
for that particular letter of credit.
That's
So
okay. I
it
got
kind
you
of
on
works
mine.
as an insurance policy, and you don't actually have to have that full amount on deposit. So instead of having to have $250,000 put into an escrow account or a trust, we would maybe get, and I'm sure we could probably negotiate it, but we could get a $250,000 letter of credit from a local financial institution, pay maybe $2,500. So even if you had it for 2 years, you're talking a $5,000, expense layout compared to $250,000, to do that. You could still keep it under the lending guidelines and the time requirements. It couldn't be over 2 years. You could even have it, probably get a bank to negotiate a 2-year letter of credit to accommodate the language in there.
And so we got a couple options.
But that would be that might be a cheaper option even compared to a rider.
Yeah.
Per se.
Yeah. And like I said, I haven't talked to Tom Couch yet, so I have no idea what he's got. So,
But I think any local financial institution would probably, be willing to write that for us.
okay.
At any time. And we could, get a bid on and probably negotiate that fee down as well.
Okay. This isn't something that we need to vote on or anything. This is just something that we're,
No, you're not even to the point of
Yeah.
voting on it, to be honest with you, because I would expect that the legal counsel who works with the gaming board will probably have some questions. They may question, for example, taking that sentence out that says, hey, you accept it as is with all faults. I would expect some questions from them, and you're going to have to get through those questions and reconcile those issues before you're ever ready to put it on an agenda. So there's quite a bit more work to do on it. If you, again, switch positions, and if the gaming board calls and says, everything has to be here by next Friday, put yourself in their position of your legal counsel not getting it, and not having a legal review on it, and you have 4 days to get all the issues resolved. I don't know that you want to put yourself in that position of running out of time like that.
Yeah.
The documents were due 90 days after the license was made available, which was 90 days from last October. So the gaming board is still working. They're still active. I understand during this COVID issue, there aren't many people working in Springfield, but this particular group is.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of, trying to put yourself in the best position if you want to do it. You still may say, I don't want to do this. This is too risky. I'm not interested, and it's perfectly fine to have that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
The expectation, I think, of the Walker's Bluff crew is that they're going to be getting some documents. If that's not what you want to do, then, maybe it's time to have a different conversation with them.
Mm-hmm. Bill?
Okay, Jim?
Yes.
Okay, guys, I had to take off because I thought it'd be a 10-minute meeting, and I got a doctor's appointment at 11:20, so don't freak out. It's just for an ear infection. But one thing on this is, it says it has to go through the final stages of the state attorney's office for the final approval. So I asked if Brandon and Philip look at it. If you guys are good with it, send it on up there. That part of it is no problem. Getting that part done.
Okay, I can answer that. I can answer that for you right now. Brandon just sent me a text and he said he's reviewed the intergovernmental agreement and see no issues. He's still reviewing the HCA, but judging from what I'm seeing from Daniel so far, I think he's doing excellent work. That was from Brandon.
So once that gets done, then you send it on up to them, they can do the work. Now, I'm gonna go back to the same thing I've said. You guys heard me say before, I'm gonna say it again. If we're in budget meetings or whatever, Tim, you know what my famous words is, we can only go by the information that we've got now.
Mm-hmm.
What we've got now is a disaster, okay? We got a virus that's gonna cripple us financially. It's crippling everybody. It's a disaster. That's what I know right now, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So we are under the assumption that this, whatever we do with this, is going to be paid for by gaming revenue. That's very clear. Gaming revenue only. It will not touch the general fund. So I'm gonna go back to what I've been harping on. And I asked Mo, I've asked Emily, I've asked Cindy. And I've asked most of you, if we get in a situation that this casino is going well, and they've been going well for 3 or 4 months, and a COVID or something else hits, and they're shut down for 3 or 4 months, who is paying that bill? It's not going to be, and I would want language in there, when it comes to that point, it will not come from Winston County General Fund. So somebody better figure out, or assurance from me, how that's going to be paid. Or plan B is, if the place didn't make it and went out of business, who's responsible for that money?
Well, those are both
Yeah.
those are both very good points, Brent. And on your first point, I would have to agree, and I think that is something that would have to be negotiated into the financing aspect of it. On the second point, I believe this is where we've been talking about the non-recourse loan.
Right,
Kim?
but I haven't heard any details, and except there's been a lot of higher interest on. We'll get to that point, but these are things
Right.
that send you the paperwork up there, just send the paperwork up, that's not a problem. But
Yeah,
these are the things that keep me awake at night, wondering what's gonna happen, what ifs. So,
right. No.
You know,
Well, Brent,
once I get that assurance, I've got a problem.
Well, Brent, I sent you a text last night because you've repetitively, and to your credit, you've repetitively asked me that question, what happens if this happens? And so, sometimes I ponder questions for quite a while, but I did have a thought come to me on how you can manage that a little bit better, how you can handle that a little bit better. The reality is, any financing agreement is going to read Williamson County owes ABC Finance Company $10 million. That's how the paperwork's going to read. You're not going to have a hero here come in and make a payment for you or forgive you. And so I did have a bit of a strategy in mind to help mitigate that when you get to that point. I know you're not ready right now to really jump into the financing component of it because you want to wait. You want to wait and see if the license is granted, and then you want to wait and see if the construction company and Elite, if they want to wait a year until the virus passes. And I know you don't want to get any financing going until you know their timeline. Getting the license is great. They may hold it for a year before they do anything. But I did have a structure. It involves kind of how you structure the casino revenue you get and what you do with it. And so I think there is a process where we can help you mitigate that concern. But I don't think there's going to be anyone, if Williamson County is signing, we owe ABC company money, I don't think there's anyone that's going to come in and help you, but there is a way where we can protect you. Okay?
We'll get that point. But I mean, as far as this goes, if Brandon and them are good with it, I'd say send it on up and get it going.
Well, trust me, Brent, I want to see everything. I want to have a good plan as well. And that's the only way we can move forward is have a good plan, have everything talked about, and have our concerns answered. So.
Well, it sounds like while I've been talking, everyone's been leaving the meeting, so that sounds like that's going well. Right?
That's part of the course.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So, yeah, you guys decide, what you want to do. There's no vote on it. Is it time to send it up for them to start digesting what you've done, what you would like to do with it? And then wait for their answers to come back and then see where you're at then.
Personally, I think we're ready to send it up. At least I'm ready to send it up. I don't know about you.
I've already said if they all clear it, go ahead and set it up from me. It's fine.
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, I think we're good.
Okay, well, you guys can talk to Greg. I'm sure, Jim, you can pass out Daniel's contact information if there are questions on it.
And you guys can call Daniel at any time on any question on this. I mean, it's not just he works for the entire county, so. He's been very helpful, very informative, if you can get past the barking dog in the background.
Yeah, he's got his phone. But no, Greg agreed that, he's looking at it constantly from a different perspective of just if the situation were reversed,
Correct.
what would he be doing? And he's also looking at it that he's not here to decide what's a deal breaker and what's not. He's just trying to guide you and give you input from the highway perspective. If you want to do this, here's the best way to go about it. And I think Greg feels that the documents are more reflective of letting him survive through all of this as well.
Okay. All right. Well, if anybody doesn't have anything else for Kim,
Everybody's left, haven't they?
no. Oh, we got some more coming back in. Father Robinson has come back in. He's dressed with black shirt and dark pants, dark t-shirt. He's going to be holding
Don't be
confession.
laughing because you can't believe it, Kim. Come on.
He's going to be holding confession on who's not been paying their property tax.
Okay, so you're talking about sending the documents over to, the attorney that works with the gaming board. I think you also probably need to discuss and decide on sending the other intergovernmental agreement over to Jackson County. I think it's probably time to have them look at that as well.
Okay. Who will take care of that for us?
I think that Greg and Mitch have been communicating the most on the intergovernmental agreement. That or Brent can send it to the other Keith Larkin, I think.
It's best, Greg. We had a conversation we had today. It's best, Greg, go to Mitch with it.
Okay, well, that's what I was.
Larkin, you won't get an answer back to Larkin forever. So.
Okay, so it's up to you guys, but if Brent is saying have Greg send it to Mitch, those two have been communicating the most about it.
Okay.
So I think that would be fine. If Brent says that's what you do, then do that.
Okay, we'll do it.
They've been talking more than anybody. That's the best way to go. I think. It don't matter to me.
Yeah, okay. And so the HCA, who's going to send the HCA to the attorneys?
I don't care.
That needs to go
Doesn't matter.
That needs to go to Emily first. She sends it on to the attorney.
Okay, all right. We'll send it to
Okay.
Emily. You want to contact Emily and figure out how to get it to her?
Yeah, we just email it.
Or just email it to her? Okay,
I'll just text her, tell her it's coming in the next day or so. So
okay, all right,
yeah, she told me there. She told me I just send it on to her. She'll take care of it.
okay.
Okay, so do you want Jen to send it since you're going to the doctor?
That's fine.
It doesn't matter to me. Okay, I'll send it to Emily then.
Okay.
And
All
they
right.
can run up their food chain. I'm sure they'll run it by Elite and Mo and all these other people,
Okay,
and then we'll see what comes back.
all right, we're good. And then Greg will send the other one to Mitch.
Yep.
So we'll go from there. We'll see what they say. All right. Anybody got anything else on that? No? Going once, going twice? All right. Kim, you don't have anything else?
I do not.
Okay. All right. There is one other item I'd like to talk, and Brent, if you still have some time, I'd like for you to stay on if you could. I mean, I know you're on your way. All right, Kim.
Yeah, well, I'm pulling it. Go ahead. But I'm pulling it to the cold pan. That's fine.
Okay. All right, Kim. We'll talk to you later. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay. There's one thing I was wanting to say. Phil, we, that email that we were talking back and forth about on the, in case somebody tested positive.
Right.
My email, I was just, trying to find out, I'm trying to learn in comparison to the other tests. I didn't know if that all falls under, if I get tested, personally, I don't, and I don't know if it's because it's COVID-19 related, I'm required to let other people know. I don't know. But I don't see how that is any different than any other type of testing, like for AIDS or HIV or for
Well, you can't
hepatitis.
transmit AIDS or HIV on a doorknob, for one. No, COVID test
Well-
isn't any different than any other test medically.
Okay.
Your privacy is between you and your doctor. If you don't want to tell anyone, you don't have to tell anyone. What I was suggesting was that we set up some sort of system where if someone does test positive and they choose to tell their employer, which is the socially responsible thing to do, that employer could say, hey, department head, office holder, whoever can send out an email to every other department head and elected official and the county board saying, we've had a positive test in this office. Please let your staff know if they've had any interaction with our office in the last several days, they should self-isolate until they can get a test and get a result back.
I got a little bit different perspective on that. I'll take a little bit farther, is we have an EMA director, we have a HR director. Apparently the HR director isn't necessarily always going to be here.
Mhm.
So we do have an EMA director that's here every day.
Mhm.
I think we need to have one person that if any department has a positive in their department, it needs to go to that one person. That way, the name of the person doesn't have to be revealed, but it damn well needs to be put out there to everybody in the county. Every department needs to know that there's a problem and where specifically the problem is, because what we had happen here is absolutely ludicrous. That we could have a test positive in our county in place and nobody know about it.
Yeah, that was, I had a conversation with some of the union stewards in my office this morning, that whether, it doesn't matter who told anyone, it was that the staff found out a week later and then realized, oh, well, we've been exposed to this person, that person, the other person, and we had 9 people out the last 2 days getting tests.
I'm gonna hold you up right there. That's false. Okay, so it's been 1 week today, and Brandon was texted that night by me, and he was texted the next morning, which I got on my phone, by me. So they were notified. So all that football we're telling you is simply not true.
I understand you're saying,
1 week today, so it's impossible to say it's been a week since they've notified. That's garbage.
okay, I'm telling you what the conversation I had this morning was about. I understand you're saying you told Brandon, and so maybe it was Brandon dropped the ball, didn't tell all the staff. I'm saying that people were upset, and it's understandable given the fear level associated with this. I think there needs to be a system in place where if any employee tests positive, someone needs to be notified immediately so that everyone can know if you had interaction with this person, you should self-isolate until you get a test result.
Yeah, I have no problem. I think Ron's right. It needs to come from one place. Either probably HR or somebody. I don't know. Maybe
Well,
I'll pick.
Brent, the problem with the HR is she's furloughed for the next 2 weeks.
Mhm.
Now, this is week number 1, but she's not gonna be here next week either. So it has to be somebody that's going to be here all the time. Kelly with EMA is going to be here all the time.
Well, she does hear about it first, so that would probably be the person to go to.
And I'm just saying, we need to have one person here that can tell everybody in the county that the individual who has tested positive, their identity can be kept,
Confidential.
yeah, but we doggone, we don't need to have the situation happen here. We're supposed to be working together, but we're not working together very well.
Have we ever?
No,
No,
but that doesn't mean we
Some
can't.
have, yes, yes.
I remember back 1900 something.
Shut the F up. If we want Father McGillicuddy's,
Guido Sarducci.
I feel like I'm on Saturday Night Live now.
So, what needs to be done here then? Do we need a policy? Or what? If it's a policy, is it a policy that has to be voted on?
Well,
Drafted
I
or?
know this is what you said, Jim. You said it's going to make a policy just on this COVID, it's gonna make a policy on.
I don't know that we need to bother writing up a formal policy. I think it's just everyone needs to be told to be a team player, and if you have a positive test, tell someone so that And if you want to, I don't know how much strain Kelly's under, if you want to make more work for her or not, but.
Kelly won't care.
Tell you what, here's a solution maybe. How about I contact Daniel on this and see what they say?
I think we're spending way too much time on this and making it much more difficult than we need to. How about this? We have Stephanie send out an email to all, not just, to all the department heads that as of today at 12 o'clock, this forward regarding this pandemic, that if there's anybody test positive, that results need to be immediately given to Kelly Norris so she can put an email out across the entire county complex that we've had a problem and where the problem is, and anybody who feels necessary can go get tested immediately, because it's not going to cost us anything to get tested. Now, I think that's just simple, and that way we just hit it head on, and it could be, this proclamation could go for 30 days, 60 days, 12 months. Who knows how long it's going to take? Just a thought.
So you're saying we don't need a policy?
I don't think we need a policy. We just need everybody to work together.
I agree with one part wrong, you said it, or make more of what it is. Somebody, I don't care who it is, just send out something and be done with it, that everybody work together. But again, when do all sort of want to see everybody work together? Not very often. So I just say, Philip, is there something you feel comfortable doing, whipping up something?
Yeah.
And somebody talking to Kelly about it, then we're done with it.
We can get Kelly on the phone before we leave.
I think it just needs to be an email to all the department heads saying, if you have a positive test in your department, you need to report it so that everyone in the county can be aware of it and know whether they need to go get tested or not.
It's that simple. Agreed.
It's just, doesn't need to be a formal policy. It doesn't need to be a carrot and a stick. It's just be a team player so that we can all stay safe.
Agreed.
I'm texting Kelly to see if she's,
We just call her? I'll call her.
just call her. All right. Put her on speaker.
Because she and I talked yesterday about this. There she is. Two ring-a-dingies. Feel like Carol Burnett.
Hi, this is Kelly Norris. Leave your name, number, and a short message, and I'll call you back as soon as possible. Thank you. Have a good day.
At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hey, Kelly, it's Ron. Can you call me as soon as possible? Thanks. I'll send her a text too.
Okay.
I just sent her a text, call me ASAP.
Did you get the note?
Was that in addition to the 7.5? Is this,
Okay.
That's what it phrased out this time, 7.5.
I wrote everything down that last
Okay,
year.
we're still on record here. So is that okay? Okay, I just want to make sure you knew.
You looked at 8,850,000 before on this.
And it dropped to 7.5.
7.5 is what the appraisal came.
So it is down a little, but it's not down 4 point.
And actually, that's gonna be a savings of over $33,000.
But it's not all the way down to 4.5 million.
It is not down to that, so. As far as the intervening party I talked to, Rebel School District, and things you said, That's all they're willing to, they want us to go to the 7.5. They don't, because they're wanting to go under $3 million.
Okay,
I'm putting on mute.
okay. I don't know if you could hear Jeff or not. We're talking about the.
He's got his mouth covered too.
About Blue Cross.
I can't hear, but it's okay. But it's fine.
Yeah, the appraisal came in at 7.5. That's about that's over $33,000 savings for them. But they appraised it about 4 something. They're still wanting to come down over $3 million market. Every $1 million of assessed, every $1 million of market's over 25. I mean, there's no reason to go down lower than that. I was gonna call the attorney, email her the appraisal, and then, just say, we're willing to go to 7.5. And if she wants the hearing, fine. If not, we'll just send her, we'll have a meeting, because we still have to have another meeting to make the final decision. But right now, the 7.5 is where we don't mind going to. I mean, the intervening party doesn't want to go any lower than that. So I'm going to email that to the attorney, call her and see what, if and when she wants to do the hearing the first of next week. If not, if she's willing to we'll just send that. She wants to go on the PTAB, that's up to her. So, but I'm just letting you know with the information about it. I assume, I don't know of any reason to negotiate below 7.5, because I mean, why are we going to drop down any lower than that? We didn't do it last time when we end up, our appraisal seemed better than the other one, so I don't know if there's any interest to go below that, the 7.5. So I just want to know where it's at, and then I'll be trying to get a hold of the attorney. Going to be emailing her the appraisal, and we'll go from there, and I'll have something for you this afternoon. We'll have to have a meeting first of next week to have the 2 hearings on this and the nursing home. If I got the nursing home worked out too with the attorney, so.
Okay.
All right, just so that's where we're at on this.
Thanks, bud.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody? If not, need a motion to dismiss.
I'll
or
make a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
I'll second.
Ron Ellis,
Yay.
Jim Marlowe,
Yay.
Brent
I
Gentry.
can't hear, but I'll just say yay.
Good timing. All right. See you, Brent. Bye.
I talked with Kelly about this yesterday.
About what?